everybody. So, as introduced, my name is Lynette. I'm a co-founder of Natural Machines, and we've been asked to tell our founder's story about this kind of different idea we're doing with 3D food printing, and to give you some hints about how to talk about a tech company, but not sound too techy. But the first thing we're going to do is approach the tech subject of 3D printing, because I need everybody to understand what 3D printing is first before we even talk about food. But here's a very non-techy way to understand it and a very simplistic way to explain it to others who may not know what 3D printing is yet. Imagine this sheet of paper, this word hello, like you would print on a normal inkjet printer. Now imagine this sheet of paper gets stuck in your inkjet printer, and it starts printing the word hello over and over and over again until you get a three-dimensional hello. That's 3D printing. It's that simple to explain it. And we do that exact same thing, except we don't use ink. We use fresh, real food, printing it layer by layer to create designer and Michelin-star dishes such as this one. Now, you may have read about this presentation in the agenda and said, hey, that's 3D food printing. That's the stuff they're going to use in space and mission to Mars, right? And you would be right. That's one of the things they're looking at. You may have heard a couple of years back that NASA was printing a pizza for space. It wasn't ours, but people asked us where our 3D printed pizza was. This is it. If I didn't tell you it was 3D printed, you probably wouldn't know it was because it looks like a normal pizza, because it is a normal pizza. Or you may have read about this presentation today and said, hey, you know, the future of food and tech, does that mean it's the end of real food? Are we going to be popping pills in the future for food instead of having real food? Is it the death of real food? We don't think so. This is actually a printed dessert called Dracula from one of our star chefs, and we don't think it's the death of food. I'm based out of Barcelona, Spain. That means Mediterranean diet, great chefs, great restaurants, and real fresh food. We love our fresh food. So we actually think that with 3D food printing, you will eat more fresh, real food in the future with the help of 3D printing. I'll get into that in a bit. Or you may have heard about 3D printing food and you're like, hey, that's a bit of a scary concept. No, spiders could be scary. Maybe not this one, this is chocolate printed for Halloween. But 3D printing food is not scary, and here's why. If you eat anything from a food manufacturer, anything when you walk into a supermarket and buy something packaged, you're practically already eating 3D printed food. Because what a food manufacturer does is they take food, they push it through machines, they shape it, and they form it. We've taken that exact same concept and shrunk it down to a design kitchen appliance, but the big difference is you put in your own fresh, real ingredients. This is what it looks like when it's printing. We have variable print speeds because we know that 3D food printing has to be fast, so the printing is always optimized to the ingredient and the design you're printing. This print ended up being plated like this. So founder's story, where did we start from? We started over 5 years ago in 2012, purely focused on 3D printing food. It's now an industry that's growing, but it's still a young industry. This is actually a white chocolate Easter egg that we printed this year. Over the past several years, we've been very honored to have been named and recognized in over 30 awards and recognitions, including being named as a top 10 food innovation that will change the world, and a top emerging health and wellness startup. Yes, health and wellness does go with 3D food printing. And we've also received worldwide press coverage in various publications, and we're very proud to get headlines such as, "One device will change how we cook forever." That was from the Washington Post. Now, I'm not showing this to you to brag about what we've been doing for the past 5 years, but just to give some credibility. Because I imagine most, if not all of you, have not heard of Natural Machines before. You're not the target market yet. We're doing professional kitchen users. And you probably haven't really heard about 3D printed food before. This is our product, Foodini. It is in the market. We're in restaurants, so you might be eating 3D printed food very soon without even knowing it. And it's being used for services, for proper services, so we're serving quite a number of people with 3D printers in restaurants. But why are chefs and restaurants interested in 3D printed food? Well, there's a number of reasons, but 2 of them keep popping up over and over. One, because it allows people to do food presentations that simply are not possible by hand. Try to do this flour made out of fresh guacamole by hand. You wouldn't be able to do it. Other thing, you might think, well, food presentation's not that important, but whether you acknowledge it or not, we do start gauging our food the minute we look at it, the minute we smell it, before we even taste it. So food presentation is important. And it's not just for adults, it's for kids. This is a slide I always show because it has a personal story behind it to me. I have 2 kids under the age of 10. A couple of years ago, I tried to get a parenting win and serve them spinach for dinner. I made a quiche, not even 3D print it, just a normal quiche. So it's a round, it looks like a pie. It's green, which happened to be my son's favorite color, so I was selling it like, ooh, this is pie for dinner and it's green, your favorite color. They weren't having any of it, they didn't buy it. So I convinced them to try the littlest bites to see if they liked my quiche, and they said they did not. Fine. Not everybody likes every food. I don't like every food. But 2 weeks later, I took the same exact recipe and printed it in the shape of these dinosaurs. What happened to my dinosaurs? They became extinct in 10 minutes or less. I barely got this photo in before they disappeared. So food presentation works for both kids and adults. Another reason why chefs are interested in 3D food printing is automation. This is from a Michelin-starred chef. The printed part of the dish is the 2 round circles. Now, could he have done this by hand? Yes. Would he get 2 perfect circles, one on top of the other? No, but it would be close enough and it would be very good and look very good. But fact of the matter is the machine can do it faster than he can, so he automated the task. Now, when people hear automation, I know people start thinking robots, jobs are going, I won't have a job because a robot's going to do everything. But you already have automation in your kitchen, and that's how we refer to as automation. So take this example. If you're chopping tomatoes and you use a knife, and then the next day you chop the tomatoes with a food processor, the only thing you did was automate your knife skills. The food processor is a kitchen appliance that helps you automate certain things. It's the same thing with a 3D food printer. You're automating certain tasks in the kitchen. Sometimes it's easier for us to explain what we are not. What we are not is like the coffee makers that force you to buy these pre-filled coffee capsules to use their devices. We actually ship with empty stainless steel food capsules that you can print using your own fresh, real ingredients. You'll hear me say that term, using your own fresh, real ingredients, constantly, because that capsule picture I just showed, that is so ingrained in our heads that we always think that capsules have to come pre-filled, even though I tell people they're empty. It's meant to be used with your own fresh ingredients. So it's a hurdle we're overcoming from that use case that we're so accustomed to. In Foodini, there's room for up to 5 food capsules that can automatically exchange as needed. That simply means that the appliance is automating where you can actually print with multiple ingredients without touching it. And there's a misconception with 3D printed food that the food has to be a slurry or a baby food texture or that you have to add gelling agents. You do not. Not the way we do it, because we have different size nozzles that accommodate different textures without the need for any additions. So as an example, you can print a couscous star with chunks of vegetables in it without processing it at all. This is whole grain. Or you can print a freshly made burger. The surprise of this burger was made with freshly ground beef, but the surprise is on the inside. We printed different layers of sauces so that you got a bit of a surprise, a nice tasty surprise when you actually bit into the burger that was unexpected. What else can you do with 3D printing? Well, we have a chef that was in Barcelona, and he was walking around on the sidewalks, and he looked down and saw these tiles, which are very common in Barcelona, and he wanted to use that for a dish to convey the feeling of Barcelona and using fresh, locally sourced ingredients. With a 3D food printer, he was able to create that dish that night. What a lot of chefs do without using a 3D printer is they'll make molds, but molds cost a lot of money, and they take time to make. No chef can do something in the same day with a mold, but a 3D food printer can actually start replacing traditional molds. And it can do things that you may not have expected could be 3D printed, like this spherification. Spherification is basically taking a liquid and making it to a caviar-like texture. The one on the right is actually a fruit juice. The one on the left is not a cupcake for kids. That is alcohol. So that's actually amaretto. So with our kitchen appliance, which is what the 3D food printer is we're looking to do more in the kitchen to have a multi-functioning device that earns its space in the kitchen. What about the taste? So things can look great, but if they don't taste great, we're not going to eat it. You can trust me and believe that things taste great. It's all fresh, real ingredients. It's what you put in is what you get out. I could be a little bit biased because I co-founded the company, so I'll show you some third-party verification. We have TV crews that come into the office and take our food out to the streets to have people taste test without us being there, so we can't influence the outcome. Here's what happened.
We put it to the test. Anyone, 3D printed cookies, get them right here.
This has come out of a printer, and it's edible?
Se imprimió. It's been printed out? But how is it done? It's good. It tastes like a normal cookie.
It's good. It can't be from a printer. It's really good.
Some, the idea is perhaps a little too radical.
No? No thanks. No, thank you. It's from a printer? No, I don't trust it. Sabe súper rica. It tastes super delicious. It's really good. Está muy buena.
It's great. The shapes are imaginative.
Tasty. Really tasty.
What? That's cool.
That's awesome.
Awesome, right? I know what you're thinking, that I edited out the bad parts, right? I did not, I promise you. Whatever was shown was actually shown on air, and you know if there was any bad reactions, you would have seen it. And you actually did see the bad reactions. The bad reactions were when people were first told before they tested the food that it was 3D printed. And since it's such an unknown, people have doubts, which is natural. That's part of the reason why we do talks like this, to help educate people on how 3D printed food can actually be nutritious and healthy and fresh. Okay, but 3D food printing, is it a novelty? Do we need it? Do we actually need a head printed out of butter to survive as a human race? I actually asked that in one presentation, and somebody said yes, but I will assume that the audience here will say no to that question. So this was actually created for a client who had a dinner party with strangers, and they wanted something on the table to break the ice to get people talking. This did the trick. If you look really fast at this and look away, you might just think you saw corn on the cob, but you're not. You're seeing 3D printed mashed potatoes in the shape of corn on the cob. So with 3D food printing, we can trick people, so you see something but get a flavor profile of something unexpected. Or we have people that are looking into actually eating less to feel as satisfied. The amount of chocolate in these 3 printed spirals is about the size of a dessert spoon, so it's not much. But when you spread it out, there's people looking into the research of if you spread out the food in a nice design, and it's not just in one spoon you can eat right away, you actually think you're eating more than you are, and you get satisfied faster. So that could be novelty or need it. But where's the real need? So we believe that in 10 to 15 years, 3D food printers will become a common kitchen appliance, like an oven or a microwave is in today's kitchen. That means your home kitchens as well as the professional kitchens. But why? Why do you need it? The answer is back in our supermarkets yet again. So when we pick up a package and we look at the back of the label, a lot of questions start popping up. Additives, preservatives, chemical-sounding ingredient names. Sometimes we don't know what we're eating. And even when we do pick up a package and it's a clean label, meaning that we understand all the ingredients, what we don't know is how much of those ingredients we're eating. So we typically eat way too much salt, oil, and sugar than we would if we were to make those products at home. Here's one example of that. This is an actual picture of my lunch that will be common for me, so it looks pretty healthy, right? It's a wrap. It's got lettuce, tomatoes, some grains, some beans, a whole wheat wrap, mind you. The only thing that's from a package here is the wrap. But then I took a closer look at it. It has how many additives? 9 of them. And they fall into 3 categories. 1 is preservatives, 2, emulsifiers, stabilizers, thickeners, and gelling agents, and 3, the mysterious others category. I literally don't know what I'm eating. But to make a wrap, it's not difficult. A wrap is water, flour, salt, maybe some spices. Where's the difficulty? The difficulty is actually having a clean work surface. Remember those 2 kids I mentioned? I never have a clean work surface. I have to clean the work surface first, put out some flour, roll out the dough. These types of doughs tend to be sticky, so I have issues with that, and then I have to use more flour than I would otherwise, and it doesn't taste right. It's a pain point. It's easier to open the package and get the wrap. But with a 3D food printer, you can make that recipe, whatever recipe you want, actually, and simply print it. It's a very clean, easy process. No preservatives needed. So there's food trends where people really want to know where their food is coming from and what's in it, and that's where 3D food printing fits into those two big mega trends. Another example I use with my kids, my son tends to eat broccoli, which is a parenting win. I should definitely count that as a parenting win. He eats broccoli, but he only eats the little florets, and then he leaves a pile of the floret stems and the stalk of the broccoli, which is food waste. I don't like food waste. 3D food printers can actually lower food waste. What I did in this particular example is one day I took the broccoli and I steamed it, the florets, the stalk, the stems, everything, drizzled it with olive oil and salt, and printed it like this. My son ate the entire thing. No food waste that night from that broccoli. And I knew every ingredient that was in that print. If I bought this, I would probably be looking at another list of 9 preservatives in it. But it's not just about the fancy shapes. Think about the things you might eat that normally come from a food manufacturer, whether it's round O cereal, square crackers, or in this case, fish-shaped crackers. Even spaghetti. All of these are printed, and they're printed with fresh ingredients. But where is 3D food printing heading? It's a young industry. It's 5 years old, but that's still relatively young. Where's it going? It's not just about the 3D food printing itself, it's also about IoT, Internet of Things, at least with what we're doing. That means fun stuff that you can do with data. So as an example, I can print something that stops after it hits 150 calories, for example. And it will intelligently scale. You won't get a half of a heart because that's the 150 calorie limit. It will actually scale the heart size so you get a complete print for that calorie size. And where 3D food printing is really going is the customization of nutrients. Again, it's optional. These things are optional. So right now, if we all had breakfast bars right now for a snack and we bought them from a supermarket, we would be eating the exact same ingredients, the same calorie count, and the same nutritional profile. But you'll be able to 3D print a breakfast bar, and as an example, I need vitamin B12, and I'm vitamin D deficient, ironically, even though I live in Barcelona. So I could actually add those vitamins to my breakfast bar, and you can do the same for your types of nutrients. So food will start to be customized rather than the generic off-the-box shelves we get in a supermarket today. And you'll see more functionality in 3D printers coming out. So as an example, the 3D food printer we have out today does not cook. It heats the capsules, which is good for keeping chocolate at a good melting point, or printing warm mashed potatoes, for example, but it doesn't cook. The next generation will. We're already working on that. So imagine a future where with these cookies, for example, you'll be able to print the cookie, cook the cookie, and ice the cookie without touching it from the device. Imagine the variety of Christmas cookies you can now have at the push of a button. But yet, it's all your own ingredients. So part of my talk today was supposed to be talking a little bit about how do you talk about technology and make it not sound so techy yet accepting. Well, we started off talking about 3D printing just so everybody knew what the technology was, but I made it really easy to understand. We didn't talk about any technology, really. It was a sheet of paper example, so make things easy. Another thing you may have seen sprinkled throughout the presentation is that I tried to relate it to what you may be doing now. So 3D food printing is not that scary because if you eat anything from a food manufacturer, it's practically the same thing. It's just called something different. And speaking of scary, to address negatives up front, I know there's negative connotations associated with 3D food printing. I had them myself. So we're kind of turning 3D food printing on its head, making it a healthy kitchen appliance for the future. So just addressing those throughout the presentation, it wasn't all positive. I was trying to address some negatives that would pop up in your head as well. That includes talking about things you may use today. So as an example, with the food processor, that's automation, but that's not scary automation. Your kitchen is full of automation tools. And finally, to talk about stories. So talking about stories with my kids and the dinosaurs, or things that we do with prints, always brings it home so that people can relate to it. It's not some abstract statistic about technology. It's really talking about kitchen appliances and how you could apply it to your future. So I hope you found that informative and entertaining. I hope that I've opened up the door a little bit, at least, for you to at least be neutral towards 3D food printing in the future. Because at the end of the day, this is real food. Just 3D print it. Thank you.